Hello, my name is Bitton, and I am doing my weekly discussion topic on location and layout strategies. So to start off, it's important to recognize that deciding a location is a long-term decision and it's difficult to reverse, so better make sure you get it right on the first time. Um, Deciding a location will affect your fixed and variable costs like rent, transportation of raw materials. If you're an industrial, uh, if your business is an industrial industry, uh, labor wages, shipping, etc. And the location of the objective of deciding a location is to maximize the benefit of the location to the firm. So depending on the type of firm, if it's cost or revenue based, um, yeah, the two different industries decide where they're going to operate from based on different factors. So let's start off with the industrial industry. And so basically, industrial businesses choose locations um, due to cost. So they're trying to minimize cost because the revenues are pretty much the same between locations. So they do this because they're more into like the shipping and manufacturing production side of things. So how close they are to their suppliers and the distributors is going to save them a lot more money than if they were really far. And then the next industry is the service industry, service retail industry. And the location decisions for these type of businesses are revenue oriented because costs are about the same wherever you go for these type of businesses. And location affects the amount of customer contact and therefore the volume of the business. That's why it's so important for these service industry businesses to have the proper location where they will get the most bang for their buck, basically. All right, so here are some strategies for revenue oriented or service industry businesses. So, in terms of volume and revenue, they want to see where the best area is for their drawing area and purchasing power. They want to see, they kind of want to locate in the best position where they will have the least, or it depends what part or how, if they're a leader in the market or a trailer. But competition-wise, if there's a lot of competition in that area and you're a company that's not doing well, you don't want to get into that because you're not going to survive. You don't want to also go into an area that doesn't have a lot of purchasing power. People don't spend a lot of money. People don't have a lot of money to spend because it will affect your business. Less people will buy less amount of goods. And then there's physical quality. So you don't want a location that your sign is falling down from the roof and you have to fix the place constantly and it's just not appealing physically. It's not going to help your business. It's just going to deteriorate it. And then there's also cost determinants in this, but it's more revenue based for service industry. But obviously there's rent, which is fixed cost, just fixed costs in general, management quality, and operational policies like hours and wages and stuff. And now let's look at the industrial businesses. So these cost-oriented businesses are going to look at the tangible costs. So they don't want to be located in a place where the transportation cost of raw materials is going to be, taking up more than it should. Um, Shipment cost of finished goods. You don't want to operate in an area where you're shipping so far that it almost costs you as much to transport it as it does to sell it. And then there's other variable costs like energy and utilities, labor, taxes, etc. And then there's also intangible and future costs. So this is stuff that's kind of out of your control and you can't really, what's the term? You can't really forecast it, if that's the correct term, very well. So this is like the attitude towards labor unions in that area that you're going to operate, the quality of the state and local government, the taxes in the area, and other stuff. All right, now these are just some factors affecting location decisions. Doesn't matter what kind of industry, it's just looking at the country, the region, the area, etc. So globally, if you're trying to expand to a global market, you're going to look at the country's economy, the political risk in that country. It's a very corrupt government. You'd probably not want to get involved in that country. Incentives to operate in that area. The location of the market, is it easier to get to your customers if you expand into that area, and a lot of other reasons. And then regionally, look at corporate desires, labor, availability of labor, the costs in that area, the attitudes towards unions, as I mentioned before, environmental regulations of the state and the city, government incentives, proximity to materials and to customers. You don't want to be too far from customers and too far from your suppliers, and the land and construction costs. And then for this actual site location, you want to obviously look at the site size and the cost. Is it fair cost for the amount of land you're getting or area? The system of transportation around your business or in the state or community. So is there a major airport by your facility? Is there a railroad? Is there good highway infrastructure? Is there good waterway systems? These are things to take into consideration when choosing location. Are there zoning restrictions? What are the environmental impact issues in that area? And so on. All right, and now I will talk about the methods in deciding a location. So there are three, I put four, but there are three main methods, which are location, cost, volume, profit analysis, which determines basically the total cost of different locations at different output levels. So if you know around what your output level is going to be, you can determine your costs at different locations if you already have different locations available to look at. There's a center of gravity method, which basically, in simple form, finds the best distribution center location. So what this does is determines the location of the facility, which will either reduce the travel time or lower your shipping costs. Distribution cost is seen as a linear function of distance and quantity shipped. So it involves using a visual map and a coordinate system. The coordinate points are treated as a set of numerical values when you calculate the averages. And then there's the location factor method. So essentially, it's just a weighted. You add a certain weight from 0 to 1 to prioritize factors and reflect its importance. So the instructions are you can take a subjective score and assign it usually between 0 and 100, and each factor based on its attractiveness is weighted differently on the different locations. So let's say one location has a very big lot space for a cheaper price. That's going to have a little bit more weight than, I don't know, maybe the fact that there isn't any major airport near that location. So obviously that's going to have a higher weight than the fact that you don't have an airport near your location. So let's say you assign a 0.2 weight factor to the fact that there is no airport near this location, then you would assign a 0.4 weight factor to the fact that you're paying less for more area at a different location. And then there's a transportation method, which essentially determines the best pattern of shipments from several points or sources of supply to several sources or destination of demands to minimize your production and transportation costs. So for my example, for location strategies, I'm going to use Zara. They spend no money on advertising at all. And actually, on a personal note, I haven't even heard of Zara until about a year ago. But its advertising is basically limited to its catalog and by consumers spreading the word. But they use the money that they save on advertising on strategically locating their stores in highly dense retail areas in major cities, since it's a service retail company that focuses more on volume because they offer nicer styles, higher quality, but at cheaper prices. And in saying so, by being near proximity to high-end fashion retailers, some of the more expensive brand styles are reflected in Zara's products, but the prices are much cheaper. I'm going to talk about layout strategy. So layout, basically, the objective of the layout of a location has to encompass a couple areas. So the product design and volume, which is the product strategy. It has to meet the requirements of the process strategy, which is the process equipment and capacity, the human resource strategy, the quality of the work life, and location strategy, the building and site constraints. So some of the strategic importance of the layout strategy is that you want to optimize the utilization of space, equipment, and people, but it differs from business to business, which I will talk about in a little bit. You want to improve the flow of information, materials, and people as best as possible. And you want to obviously improve employee morale. And you want to have a better customer and client interaction. So there are several types of layouts. Obviously, I can keep going down the list, but these are just the main ones. Basically, at the end of the day, a warehouse is going to have a different setup than a retail store or a telecommunications office. So there's the fixed position layout, which is the product doesn't ever move. It's always in the same place. It's a simple, basic layout. And then there's a process-oriented layout, which is low-volume products are, how do I put it? It's the low-volume product. I mean, there's a low volume of customers because the quality of the product is high. So there's it's not like a retail store. It's more of like a high-end, like a Gucci or a Louis Vuitton, where everything's very spaced out and very, very high-end. Like, you're going to go into the store and buy maybe one product. You're not going to buy 15 different products. There's an office layout, which is exactly how it sounds. It's like an office. It's, desks, seats, whatever, clumped in a certain way to make communication more efficient. There's the retail layout. So this is based on more customer preference and access. Depends what kind of retail, low end, high end, in the middle. Higher end is going to have less volume. Lower end is going to have more volume, more clutter. Whereas high end is going to have less clutter, more space. Warehouse layout, raw materials, end products, whatever. It's all going to be separated. It's going to be less organized than a product because you don't have a physical selling space. It's more for the employees to be more organized to find their materials. And then you have a product-oriented layout. So this is more for retail companies like in the mid-segment, lower segment, like Express or Macy's, where the product layout is for max efficiency and very high volume. They're trying to sell. They don't have people coming and buying one product. They have people coming and buying multiple things. And then my example for the layout is Gucci. As I mentioned before, Gucci is a well-known and luxury fashion brand that each of its stores has the same specific type of layout. Different products, but same store layout. And basically, it reflects its big business model, which is focuses on quality instead of volume. And it's more of a customer intimacy and customer delivered value company. So when you walk into the store, everything is very, very spaced out. Like, the bags have maybe 3 feet of space in all directions from each other. Whereas if you go to like an Aldo, everything is together. The shoes are one after the other. Or in the Macy's, where everything's cluttered together, you have to find your own things. When you walk into a Gucci, they usually greet you by your last name, your first name. They're security guards. Everyone's dressed in all black with like a sleek design. The service is very friendly, very helpful. And all of this is reflected just in the way that the store looks. And the way that it looks is you get that sense of quality and luxury and customer intimacy. And thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed and learned something.